Hey YouTube, this is Finger11 Yo. Here is part 2 of the reef parameters series. So this part we're going to be talking about alkalinity and calcium. So we're going to talk about where I like to keep my levels, and the optimal range for me is 10 to 12.8. That's where I find corals grow the fastest and they look the healthiest. By that I mean my corals all have good growth rings, polyp extension, and monthly growth is phenomenal. I've tried it other places, no luck. So this I find is the best range for DKH or DKH, yeah. DKH stands for degrees carbonate. It's hard to say. Degrees carbonate hardness is what DKH stands for. So basically what I dose is I dose B-ionic, and it is based off of the ionic balance, hence the name B-ionic. Basically the ionic balance is as calcium increases, your DKH will decrease, which is the alkalinity. Basically in the middle you'll have magnesium, which I talked about in my other video. Is really not that important for corals, but it is important for keeping your alkalinity and your calcium levels right. So magnesium, the higher the magnesium, the higher you can keep your DKH and your calcium without it combining into calcium carbonate. I mean, really, I don't even mess with magnesium. You can mess with it all you want, but you can do a water change for the same. You can do a 10% water change on a 75 gallon for the same amount of money as it would take to dose that 75 gallon with magnesium. I covered this in my last video, but I'm gonna repeat it. I mean, and then with a water change, not only are you replenishing the magnesium, but you're also getting rid of the phosphates, the nitrates, the nitrites, and you're also replenishing the calcium and alkalinity. So that's why I like to do instead of dosing magnesium. I mean, as long as you're dosing every 1 to 2 weeks, you would not, as long as you're doing water changes every week to every other week, you should be fine. In terms of magnesium, unless there is a little room for error, if you have mangroves will absorb a ton of magnesium. That's the reason I don't have one in my refugium, and that's honestly the reason I don't like them. So back to the ionic balance. So as alkalinity increases, calcium will decrease, and as calcium increases, alkalinity will decrease. Basically the key to keeping your level stable is honestly just playing around with dosages and recording them so you can know what adjustments need to be made. And basically eventually you'll get in a pattern. As you see here, I had to restart because my doser got clogged up a little bit and I didn't realize it. So my calcium went all the way up to 490. My alkalinity went down to 9. I don't like to keep my calcium that high. Anywhere past 470 it starts to burn corals, and the optimal range is around 450 to 420. So right there, as you can see, I did a water change. Whenever I have a problem with my system, I immediately do a water change. It's the quickest, cheapest fix to any problem. I mean, I can do a water change, fix the problem in one day, or I can spend 3 days playing around with my dosage. So basically I did a water change, and then for the next while I've been playing with my dosage, but nowhere near as much as I would have if I didn't have done a water change. So that's a key point I'd like to hit on. Water changes are basically the cure-all, fix-all way to solve a problem. That is parameters wise. As long as you're using good RO water, 0 TDS, and good salt, water changes will always help your system. So I use B-Ionic. I like it. It uses the ionic balance, and they know more about the ionic balance than a lot of other companies do. And basically, B-Ionic's two-part is a lot less likely to combine into calcium carbonate. So I used Kent, and I had a lot more calcium carbonate buildup, and I was having to dose a lot more with Kent than I am ESV's B-Ionic product. It's nice. I buy them in gallons. They even sell them in 5-gallon buckets, but that's pretty nice. I like B-Ionic. And if you come over here, I even purchased their doser. This is the B-Ionic doser, 2-part doser. Basically what it does is it has this air pump right here. I'll put this back up there, and it pushes air into it when the timer goes off. You only have the timer set to a minute, no matter how much you're dosing. And basically the air pushes down, and you have these where you screw these knobs and adjust this tubing. The tubing decides how much of each component, which are stored in these gallon reservoirs. It determines how much of each component can drain down into here. And when the pump comes on for a minute, you have this adjusted to where you want it, and it pumps. When you're pushing air in, this liquid has to escape somewhere, so it goes out through the tubing. Comes along here, and they have these nice clamps that come down, and they go straight into your water. So that's pretty nice. I went with their doser. It was $200, and basically all you have to buy is an air pump and one timer. So it's about the same amount of money you would spend on BRS dosers because you're only using one timer, where with the BRS dosers you'd be using more than one because you'd be dosing different with each one. That's another thing. A lot of people think you dose, say my tank was dosing 40-40 of alkalinity and 40 calcium. I mean, I seriously doubt your tank's going to be at stable levels if you're dosing the same amount. Like here, my tank uses 40 calcium and 70 alkaline buffers, or 70 milliliters of alkaline buffer. A lot of people say I dose alkalinity later. That is wrong. You cannot dose alkalinity. This is alkaline buffers that help buffer the alkalinity. That's like saying you dose pH. It's not possible. So that's basically how I keep growth tips on my corals. If you have any questions or anything, just leave a comment. I think I covered everything I needed to. So yeah, this is Finger 11 Yo, and I'm out. Peace.